Hello everybody, welcome back to Mario Tennis Aces. In the last part, we took down, I guess PD Piranha, and we got our first, Cult Dreamcast game back now. Cool. We better find the other 4 copies, because that's all that exists.
Man. That reminds me, I need to get back to Skies of Arcadia sometime. I like that game, but it's also really archaic on a mechanical level, and so I need to be in a certain kind of mood, kind of like with Grandia 2.
Do you have the GameCube one or the Dreamcast one?
I have the GameCube one. I don't have a Dreamcast, and I have no desire to play anything on that ancient vacuum cleaner. Thank you very much. I don't know why people love the Dreamcast so much. I mean, I get, like, on an academic level why people have an affection for the Dreamcast. It's a very interesting system. Was way ahead of its time. Has, like, good games on it, but as a system, it's awkward.
It's
loud.
For the same reason why there are people who like the Wii U. They're the same system, so...
Not really. The Wii U,
no, not
like,
really.
the Wii U's quiet, and when you stick a Pro Controller on it, it's basically a PS3. So, yeah, I get why people will play games on the Wii U. It's just, you know, I don't like the Dreamcast controller at all.
Oh, the Dreamcast controller sucks, and every time somebody's like, oh, the Dreamcast controller doesn't suck, and I'm like, excuse me? You people think that the N64 controller is bad. Oh my god, okay, so we're gonna talk about gimmicks in this game. Like, one of the, like, this is just the gimmick of this board, is that, okay, there's a pole in the middle, because it's a ship. And you're like, okay, like, that's a really, really minor thing, but it's also, like, the most annoying gimmick in the game for some reason. Because you can't aim your shots well enough in order to not hit the stupid thing. And it gets absolutely infuriating in some of the later missions, because a lot of missions are on this stupid ship. And it's just okay.
The thing about the pole is because of the limited way you can aim your shots, it basically means that if you're on one side of it, you have to aim to that side of the court, and that makes you really goddamn predictable. Because if you try to aim for the other side, there's a very good chance you'll shoot through the middle and hit the pole.
Yeah.
And that will either bounce you back onto that side anyway, or it will just cause you to fault because it bounced back.
Yeah. I mean, so... This game has gotten updated a lot since when I recorded this. This is like version 1.1.1.
That was what I was talking about.
Yeah.
You see, all the other player has to do in order to reliably block your shots is be on the same side of the court as you.
Yeah.
It's
So unless if you're lucky and you can like that, and they bounce it off with ungodly aim that I'm never able to do to get, then you're gonna. It's going to be a really slow match, pretty much. But, so this game got updated a couple of times. I think that in one of the updates, they actually made the pole harder to hit. So, I think you...
So what, shrunk its hitbox?
Hitbox.
Because there are certain times where you swear that you should have missed it, and you don't. So... You know, like, you hit it way more, because it's not super often that you're going to be throwing it directly across the exact middle of the net, you know. It happens way more likely than you think it would. But there are a number of different things that were changed about this story mode. The most important thing is that when you lose a challenge in the story mode, originally what happened is that you would be kicked back to the map menu. There would be some stock dialogue about how we lost and how we have to try again. And then you would have to read the original dialogue as you entered the stage again. I believe you could skip that part. But basically the game had to go through like 2 loading screens and a bunch of forced dialogue before you could try the mission you were supposed to do again. And certain missions in this game are really long and annoying, and if you lose, you have to do them all over again.
Yeah.
Thankfully, one of the updates, I forget which one, added a retry option, which I really would have appreciated when I was playing this game the first time. But, you know, whatever.
Redundant load times and stuff are one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to retrying things. And like the only game I can think of off the top of my head that is like absolutely perfect about letting you retry things without that stuff is, oddly enough, Dead or Alive, which just, you know, dumps you right back into the same fight arena and same fight that's already loaded into the game without bumping you back to a character selection screen and a load screen and then another load screen. It's yeah.
Yeah. I believe Tekken will let you do that too, but again, it's only if you want to do the same fight on the same stage and the same
Tekken
characters.
always loads the whole fight, though, and it was especially egregious in Tekken 6, which had horrible load times just in general. You'd have to reload the entire stage again, and both characters again, even if you selected everything the same way, or it was arcade mode, or whatever.
I think 7 lets you reset do a rematch, and if it's the same characters and stage, it will just load the fight again. But it's been a while since I played it, so don't quote me on that.
I think it does load the whole fight again, but I think Tekken 7 also might just have better load times than 6. Granted, I'm playing it on the Pro, so.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Tekken 7 still has graphics issues on the Pro, where, like, Kuma looks like he's got a wig for fur and things like that. So,
I like this gimmick.
this gimmick is probably my favorite one in the game, but unfortunately it's also just another variation on the Piranha Plant one that we've already had, you know, where it's just like, this is just another way for shots to be sent back towards you. You know, it's a slightly different take on the same same thing we've seen.
But I think there is a variation of it that actually allows you to alter the direction of your ball going into the other side of the court, like that. Yeah, actually.
Yeah, but only I think only Boo is able to do that in this single player version. I don't know. I have not played this game multiplayer very much because I'm just not super good at Mario Tennis. I only first played Mario Tennis a couple of years ago, like 2000, like maybe 15, 16.
I think when I was playing the other single player modes as Daisy, the tennis Terminator, the mirrors were able to be used offensively.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's how it works if you're playing with friends or against.
Don't jump down my throat, commenters. If I was wrong about that, it's been months and months since I last played this. I haven't played Tennis Aces since I traded away my first Switch to pay my rent. Actually, I have a new Switch, but I haven't touched the game since I got it.
That's just kind of the sad little problem with this game, is that there's very little reason to come back to it compared to Mario Kart or Smash or Splatoon.
To be fair, they've tried. They release new characters monthly, and they have the online tournaments thing. So it's not like and they've been updating it with quality of life improvements pretty consistently. Like, I think they did there was some really obtuse way you had to select your stage originally. I think it's like you had to set your default stage in the options or something like that, and then they changed it to just a standard character select and stage select option later. I don't know why that was something that needed to be fixed, but they did fix it, so like I'll give them credit for that. But yeah, unfortunately, I do agree in that there's not as much reason to come back like week after week or month after month, because unfortunately, as we talked about earlier, the characters don't change all that much, unfortunately. Like
there's no hype at adding Boom Boom to the game.
Not to, like, especially since Boom Boom's already in the game. Like, he's an opponent in the single player. So it's just like, okay, we already knew he was in the game, you know, like
you know what I mean, though. Adding Illuma is not special.
I mean, like, I'm really glad that Pauline was finally added eventually. But unfortunately, like you say, Boom Boom, there's not really that much difference in playing Boom Boom as there is to playing Donkey Kong, you know, other than animations. You know, otherwise they're very similar big heavy characters. The things that are the most different between the characters are the trick shots, from what I can tell, which are the big flips that you do in some. Some characters' flips are just better than others. Like Bowser Jr., I remember, was considered really, really good at the beginning of the game because he could basically just save a ball anywhere on the entire court, if I remember correctly. But it's the kind of minute detail that a casual fan isn't gonna know. You know, it's the kind of like Smash Brothers patch notes kind of thing where, as a kid playing Melee, you didn't know that Marth was better than Roy because his tip thing existed. You just, you thought that they were basically the same, except one had fire. You know, you didn't notice that kind of big change until, somebody data mined the game 10 years later. And it's the same sort of thing. Whereas, like you mentioned Splatoon, Splatoon got a new weapon every week, and those weapons all functioned very differently from each other. You know, playing a roller is very different than playing a charger, and a roller with suction bomb and tentamissiles is very different than a roller with point sensor and ink armor. So it's just not. There's just not as much difference. There's not as much new stuff to the new characters that you get, other than, oh, now I can play as a Luma, you know, like, if that makes sense. So,
Yeah.
like, I think, you know, honestly, the thing that would have made me more excited is if they added more single-player minigames and stuff like that, because that was something that this game was also lacking for a while, is that this game does have minigames in the story mode, but there was, at least at launch, no way to play them on your own. I believe, like, they're pretty simple, all things considered. There's, like, a rally challenge, a hit the targets challenge, and a, there's at least one more.
You mean like if they added an extra mode where you could play the game, you could play the mini games for, like, scoring purposes outside of the story mode.
Yeah, I mean, I think they did add something like that at some point. Again, the comment section probably will correct me. But I also would have liked more varied minigames, because I haven't played really much Mario Power Tennis, but that's something that I know they did very well, was they have a lot of wacky minigames in that one.
Yeah, I was going to say, they basically had a Mario Kart mode, effectively.
Yeah.
Because there were, like, item boxes on the ground, and if you hit your ball on, like, their side of the court on the item part, you would get something you could shoot, like a Koopa shell or, you know, invincibility, so they couldn't hit you back with anything, and so forth.
And I know that there was also, like, a single-player minigame where you had to hit the tennis ball on certain parts of a picture on the wall in order to paint by numbers the picture and stuff like that. There was, like, a boss battle against a Mecha Bowser. And, I mean, granted, they do have boss battles in this game, which are, like, the best part. I do really like the boss battles in this, because a tennis boss battle is just stupid and amazing, and the kind of thing I want a Mario sports game to have, you know. So the boss fights are the best implemented part of this game. Single player, I should say, IMO. But yeah, more wacky minigames would be fun. Like this, for example. This is something that you would see in, like, a traditional training room or whatever. And it's fine, you know. It's challenging and satisfying to pull off. And I'm not saying that this shouldn't exist in something else. I'm just saying something more wacky should appear. Like, again, one of the things that I know from Power Tennis is there was a Luigi's Mansion minigame where you had to, like, hit the ghosts in order to keep them from coming to your side of the court and hurting you, for example. And this isn't really as dynamic as that is. It's just like, okay, hit them.
It's a standard kind of target your shots training thing.
Yeah, and training stuff like this should exist in the game, and I think that the story mode having them is a good way for you to practice your fundamentals and whatnot, but something a little bit more. It's, again, I mentioned this in part 1. This game does have effort put into it, but I don't think that they quite went, like, the extra mile that they needed to for the game to be, like, phenomenal, you know? Which I think that a lot of people undercredit the Mario sports games, especially the GameCube ones, in that a lot of the time people are like, oh yeah, those are okay, but I really do think that they're, like, some of the most fun multiplayer on the system. And the GameCube has a lot of good multiplayer options, so that's not something I say lightly.
Some of the best all-rounder games, I would say. Not just multiplayer, but good for multiplayer and single player, whereas in this game's case, it's a little bit lopsided in terms of their development emphasis.
Yeah.
They wanted it to be a multiplayer game and neglected the single player side of it.
Yeah,
unfortunately.